When real men can't sleep, real men do the news, and I am wide awake. Leaked audio showed, I think it was back in August, that Elizabeth Warren wasn't for Medicare for all. Now, I was going to name that video this, but I realized there was no point. It didn't have to have leaked audio. If you were watching this channel, I have been telling you for months that Warren was for it, and it didn't take leaked audio to get that across. It was plain as the nose on your face. The only thing you had to do was listen to what she's saying. She's just using legalistic terms, meaning she's giving words her own definition in order to make the argument work. It's the reason why they keep hounding her. Are you going to raise taxes? She doesn't know, because she doesn't have a plan where she can compare it to figure out whether or not she's going to have to raise taxes. No, she doesn't want to say that, but it's also true that she just doesn't have a plan. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to allow you to take Warren's word for it. But just to give you my basic argument, because my basic argument has been right. My wife knows that I have a thing about being right. She often says you'd rather lose a friend than to essentially lose a fight. And I suppose that's to some degree true. Again, depends on the friend, depends on the fight. And sometimes she takes the opposition just to not allow the right to fall over me. After a back and forth, eventually she gets tired of the back and forth and was like, you always go too far into it. But in this case, I've been right. I've been right as an absolute, despite some of the back and forths I've had with people who tell me that she's for it just because she says she's for it. Because politicians are always honest. 1, Medicare for All is a bill. It is a legal document. Flat fact, true. There is a House of Representatives version to which these two can kind of meet and make a baby. That's a law. 2, you're either for it or not. I don't know. I don't know if you can have a superposition of states. You are either for it or not. It's a yay or it's a nay. 3, Warren's not for it. And I know people say, oh, dude, that's not. I'm sorry. Warren is not for it. Medicare for All is a legal bill. It's a bill. It's a text. For it or not. And my argument is she's not for it. Warren is doing something massively dishonest. She's talking about Medicare for All as if it's a subjective, amorphous, esoteric quality. There is nothing less esoteric than a legal document, a bill. And again, you're either for it or not. It's not an esoteric thing. It's not a framework. It's a legal bill. 3, she has no health care plan. She has no health care plan. Medicare for All is not even listed on her website. Go to her website. Unless she's updated it, it is not even on her website. Explain to me how she could be for Medicare for All and then not listed on her website. She's talking about it as if it's a subjective quality, not as if it's a real thing. I hope you understand my point. This explains why she can't answer the question of whether or not taxes are going to get raised, whereas Sanders says yes, because it's a bill that he wrote. He knows it because he can go through some level of analysis for the bill. She has nothing to compare it to, so she can't answer that question. And most people don't want to answer it, but she can't answer the question. Now, if that's my litmus test, how do I evaluate something that I can't see? Meaning, I can look at every other candidate's plan, and every other candidate, whether you like their plan or not, at the very least, gives you a plan for you to evaluate to make a decision of, yes, I like it, no, I don't. If Warren has a plan that's better than Sanders, fair enough. But let's just be very clear that if she has a plan that's better than Sanders or less than Sanders or equal to Sanders, it's something else. That's my very basic point. And I keep making that point to people and people look at me like I'm crazy. If she has something else, if she's going through some other negotiation and trying to come up with a plan, and if she is right now not able to answer the question of tax, then it's not Medicare for All. It's something else. And I'm even going to give you proof positive of this and just going through a history of Warren's comments on this very specific issue to make it plain, crystal clear, that Warren is not for Medicare for all. She talks about it in theory. And she talks about it in theory in a sense of, yeah, in theory I'm for it, and I can argue it on stage when I'm beside Sanders because I want to appear to the American public as if we're a one-to-one. But when she gets on the campaign stump and when you put a camera in her face, she says something else. She often says something else that gets across the con. I want to say Medicare for all because I want people to think Sanders and I are the same quantity. When I explain it, however, I talk about Medicare for all in subjective terms, as if it's this esoteric thing and not a legal bill or a legal document. I tell people that it needs to be filled in. And I've made the argument that what she's going to do is pivot, and whatever she gives you, she's going to scream, that's Medicare for all. That's dishonest. That's the kind of point that I'm making here. It's fundamentally dishonest. So and I will try to be quick with this, let's go through a history of Warren's comments on Medicare for all, including the leaked video of Warren talking about something else that she is calling Medicare for all. By Warren's standards, everybody on stage can literally say they are supporting Medicare for all. Why couldn't they, based on her subjective standard of what Medicare for all is? Welcome to the Soapbox After Dark. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, you find yourself coming back often, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal or Patreon, not to mention Super Chats. Lauren Steiner and I had a really good conversation about Warren, and we have a slight disagreement on this point. And I really want to nail this point home because I am absolutely right about this. Ryan Grimm put out this. How on earth is this being spun as Warren splitting from Bernie? Don't take the bait, people. Well, I'm taking the bait. It's not bait. It's fair enough for me to say, what is Warren's plan? And that plan is not Medicare for all. And I hate to tell Ryan Grimm, if you would have listened to the entirety of the video, she deviates significantly and again gets across that the goal, this con, is to get out of the primaries, and whatever she puts through, call it Medicare for all. I swear to God, that's what she's going to do. Think of what Obama did. They passed Obamacare and Democrats immediately screamed it was universal coverage. Her slippery language right now about what Medicare for all is, as if Medicare for all is not a bill, allows her to call whatever she puts through Medicare for all. It's dishonest. It's dishonest. Let's start in 2013. I think this is 2013. And let's start here because I want to go to a baseline before she's running for president. Let's keep going.
About 90% of all prescriptions. So you know what you're going to hear from a consumer advocate. And that is, we need to hold insurance companies accountable. And that means no tripping and trapping people on those insurance contracts. About Medicare for all, there are a lot of different pathways. What we're all looking for is the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. And some folks are talking about, let's start lowering the age. Maybe bring it down to 60, 55, 50. That helps cover people who are most at risk and can be helpful, for example, to the laborers' plans. Some people say do it the other way. Let's bring it up from everybody under 30 gets covered by Medicare. Others say let employers be able to buy into the Medicare plans. Others say
that's not Medicare for all. And this is kind of my point. She's talking about multiple plans. She's using Medicare for all in very subjective, esoteric terms. Medicare for all is not subjective and esoteric. It's a bill. This is her one of the campaign strategists. Listen to what he says.
You think you guys are going to have to be a little bit more specific, though, about how you pay for it, no matter what the net benefit is on the other side?
So I think her answers on this, are around the overall cost for middle class families and what it's going to be. I think that the question of the pay for is there's a lot of detail still to be filled in terms of both Bernie's bill that's out there, but also the other versions of it. Other candidates have their specific plans. So I think they'll be.
Other candidates have their specific plans. She's looking at multiple plans. Again, Medicare for All is a specific bill. Let's keep going.
Bills on the floor in the United States Senate. I signed on to Medicare for All. I signed on to another one that gives an option for buying into Medicaid. There are different ways we can get there, but the key has to be always keep this.
There are different ways we can get there. Again, she is talking about Medicare for All as an esoteric, multiple plan thing. And by that definition, pretty much everybody on stage could call their plan Medicare for All by that logic. Medicare for All is a specific bill. I don't know how I'm wrong on this. I mean, let's keep going. And again, she's talking about it as if there are multiple things. When she gets out of the primary, whatever she passes, she would scream, this is Medicare for All, even if it's, which most likely won't be, Medicare for All.
Own plan. I support Medicare for All. I think this is a good plan. And look, I support a lot of plans. Other things that people have come up with when they're good plans, let's do it.
How do I evaluate that? Honest question. How do I evaluate that? In all of these cases, Elizabeth Warren has been saying, I support multiple plans. She's been consistent saying that. The only catch is she's been calling multiple plans Medicare for All. Meaning, I have no way to evaluate what Elizabeth Warren is talking about, and I strongly believe she will tack back to the right and call whatever she passed. It could be a public option. She screamed that it was Medicare for All. She has a criteria of sorts, and this amorphous criteria is this thing that she's calling Medicare for All. That's not Medicare for All. That's not Medicare for All. And this notion of I have multiple plans and I want to be as vague as possible while calling it Medicare for All, that doesn't fly. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Elizabeth Warren does not have a healthcare plan. She is just screaming Medicare for All to be on the campaign stage with Sanders. In reality, she does not have one.
Own plan. A little
This was the
more
leaked audio.
open textured about this one. The way I see it is we need to know what the goal is. And the goal has got to be that we've got to be in a place where we get coverage for everybody at the lowest possible cost. And the numbers are just clear on it. That's Medicare for All. For me, I think of it the way I think of trade. And that is, it matters who's at the table. I want to make sure that the folks who are at the table are folks who don't have healthcare coverage. I want to make sure they're there, but also folks who do have healthcare coverage. I want to make sure the unions are there. And I know not all the unions are in the same place on this because they have members that they're in different places on healthcare. This is going to be a process that is fundamentally about respecting the fact that we got to work together on this. For those for whom it is already part of their compensation package, then we've got to think about adjustments in the law to make sure, not just that out of the goodness of their hearts, that some employers will make up the difference, but that that's part of the legal structure. For people who don't have any coverage, we've got to make sure that they're represented about how fast we can get them into the system. So when I hear people say, well, we'll do 55, 50, 45, well, that's great if you have health insurance. We've got to find a way to get people into Medicare for All as quickly as we can. So it's not that I have a plan that says we're going to do this part, and then we're going to do this part, and then we're going to do this part. No, instead, my plan is we're going to get to a table like this. We're going to make sure everybody gets represented.
She just said, I don't have a plan. I don't understand this comment by Ryan Grimm. How on earth is this being spun as Warren splitting for Bernie? She just said she wants to get people around the table. She doesn't have a plan on how to necessarily push through the healthcare stuff. This is not Medicare for All. And that leaked audio is essentially what she's been saying the entire time. There's more. She's asked an actually pretty decent question. Listen to her answer.
The lead candidate still needs a couple more weeks to tell them how it's going to get paid for.
Why don't you ask me that when the plan is out?
If Warren was for Medicare for All, why would she have to wait until the quote-unquote plan is out? if she was supporting Medicare for all, that plan is already out. That bill is already out. There is already a legal text in this House also. If Warren was for Medicare for all, she would just say, I'm for that bill. Your candidate, I'm sorry, is not for Medicare for all. She is for something else. She is crafting a healthcare plan right now. And what I would tell you is whatever she comes up with, she would call it Medicare for all. And why would you trust? Why on earth would you trust a candidate that is essentially being dishonest with you and hiding the ball, and has been hiding the ball all of this time to be as vague as possible? So again, to be able to tack back in the primary without breaking any kind of promise. She doesn't mean it. Back in 2012, she didn't mean it. She doesn't mean it now. This is an evolution for the presidency. This is not something that digs into her. I agree with Harry Reid's evaluation of essentially saying she will tack back. Also, her prescription drug thing that she mentioned is $500 a month. That is sadistic. Bernie Sanders' thing is $200 for the year. So I don't know what Warren has in regards to the healthcare plan because nothing has been put to me to evaluate. Medicare for all is my litmus test. It continues to be my litmus test. And up to this point, it does not seem like she is for Medicare for all. I've shown you all of the videos in her own words. And again, this is consistent with my argument. She wants to stand on stage beside Sanders and says, I'm for Medicare for all. I'm with Bernie. We're a 1-to-1. The catch is Bernie is talking about a bill. She is talking about some kind of subjective esoteric thing. She knows that this is true. It doesn't stop her from doing it. It doesn't stop her from deceiving the onlooker who is looking at the debates and trying to figure out which candidate that they want. And other candidates are talking about Medicare for something else. Warren says Medicare for all. But the catch is, Warren is also talking about something at you. But the problem is, she can't answer it. And because she can't answer it, it makes her look that much more dishonest.